Sorry, I thought I was muted.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Resident and Family Support Council. The link to the meeting always stays the same, so if you ever want to attend, the the link that got you here today will get you here in a couple of weeks. And today we've got an exciting presentation by Jessica, who's going to be talking with us about our legislative updates. And I will get our links in the chat just as soon as she starts. So, um, Jess, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Stephen. Can you just confirm that you can see my slide and it has the State House picture on it?
Yes, I can see your slide. The weird thing is, though, when you were talking, your mouth was not moving at all. So,
I have a delay, so maybe I'll turn my camera off for now because I'd rather it not distract everybody. Let's see. Is my video going to shut off? I shut it off, but it's not looking like it. The joys and blessings of Technology.
Yep.
Okay. Um, thanks for thanks for that, Stephen. I appreciate it. My name is Jessica Belsly, and I am the Ombudsman Specialist here at the state office for the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Lee Moriarty, who is the friendly face that you know and love and are used to seeing every day, is dealing with some travel issues right now. So she sends her apologies that she's not able to make it today, but if she said she's going to try and log on if it works out, but asked us to go ahead and get the show on the road without her. So hopefully, you are here today to hear about some of the legislative initiatives that are going on within the state of Illinois. Before we jump into what are the ombudsman initiatives are, as well as a few other bills that are out there that affect individuals living in long-term care homes, I want to take a minute to just talk through how you file a witness slip. So we're gonna One of the things that's really important with the legislative process, and I kind of wrap up with this slide, is taking time to let your voice be heard. So, one of the main ways that a lot of us have our voices heard in the legislative process is through voting, right? We vote for our state legislators, our federal legislators, our other leaders. But another way you can have your voice be heard in the legislative process is by creating a witness slip. And essentially, what that does is it says, I've read this bill. This bill is of interest to me, and I'm going to tell you whether I support it, whether I oppose it, or whether I'm neutral. I'm not necessarily a big fan, but I'm not opposing it. So I want to give that intro before I dive into how to actually create a witness slip. I wanted to make sure that it was clear what a witness slip is. And so when a bill is in committee, so the legislative process is a legislator gets a bill drafted and then they introduce it. And in the House, it goes to the Rules Committee. In the Senate, it goes to Assignments. That's a committee. And then those bills get kicked out of those committees into another committee. So oftentimes the bills that the Ombudsman program are paying attention to get into a committee like a Human Services Committee or a Health and Human Services Committee, a committee with that type of a name. And so when a bill is assigned to a committee, there is the opportunity to provide testimony on that bill. And so you can provide written testimony, you can provide oral testimony, but the other thing you can do is just file a witness slip to say, hey, I support this, or hey, I think this is bad. I don't support this. So I'm going to walk through how you can do that. So the website to reach basically all things related to our General Assembly is www.ilga, Illinois General Assembly.gov. And that QR code you see on your screen right there, if you scan that QR code, it will automatically take you to ilga.gov. Stephen, just as an FYI, because I'm sharing, I can't see the chat or any questions. So if you just interrupt me at any time when something pops up, I would appreciate it.
No problem. I'm good at interrupting you.
Yeah, we work well together in that. We're both skilled in that area. Okay, so here's the how to file a witness slip. And when I look at this list, it's like, whoo, there's a whole lot of words on that screen or on that slide. And so I'm not going to even read this to you. I'm just going to say that this is what we're going to walk through in the next few slides is step by step how to file a witness slip. I turned my camera back on. Let me know if I'm way off again, Stephen. So the first thing we're going to do is enter the bill number up in the top corner. So up here you see select General Assembly. We are currently in the 104th General Assembly. A General Assembly lasts for 2 years. So this is the second year of the 104th. That can be confusing sometimes. So I just typed up in this area up here on the screen, Senate Bill 3766. And after I do that, you can go ahead and click on that magnifying glass and it'll take you to that bill. So here we are at that bills page. We can see the bill status is the tab that we'll start on. So this is a bill that's titled Assisted Living CNA Training, the last action. So this is the last thing that happened related to this bill. One of the things I think it's important to point out is it does take a little bit of time for the information to get into the system. And so if the Senate's meeting today and let's say they vote to move a bill out of committee or they move it, they pass it off of third reading and it's going over to the House, you might not see that updated until tomorrow. So um, I I can sometimes not be very patient. So it's like, oh, I know this committee hearings ended. What happened to the bill? And oftentimes you don't know for a few hours or maybe even overnight before all the information gets into the system and updated. So we're trying to get to a witness slip. And if a bill is not in committee, you won't be able to get to the witness slips. But this one is. We can see here that it's assigned for a hearing and the Health and Human Services hearing. So I think sometimes this is blue and you can click on it, but I can't click on it right now because it's not a link. And so I made a note here. Sometimes you've got to scroll down to get to the action section to see the committee name in blue where it's an actual link. So I'm going to scroll down and we can see the actions. And so any of these things, if I click here on Senator Christopher Bell, it will take us to the senator's profile with his district office and his Springfield office and contact information. I'm trying to get into the committee where this Second Amendment is getting kicked in, or the Second Amendment got put into. So I'm going to click on this Health and Human Services link. And this is what the committee page looks like. There are 12 members to the Health and Human Services Committee. I don't have all of them on this because I pasted an image into the PowerPoint slide, but you can see several of these are all the Democratic committee members. And then there's also an additional, if I was able to scroll down, you could see the 4 Republican committee members that also sit in this committee. Noreen Hammond is one of the Republican committee members, but just off the top of my mind, I can't remember the names of the other 4 or the other 3 that are also in this committee. But to get to the place where you can file a witness slip, you have to click on this hearings tab. So it starts on the members tab. You click on the hearings tab, and then it shows you what's scheduled. So it shows that there is a hearing scheduled for 4 p.m. today because we're actually recording this on April 14th. And so you click on details. And once we do that, we can scroll down and see down here at the bottom, I'm trying to create a witness slip for this bill 3766. And so I've zoomed in here to what this bottom portion looks like. But to actually create a witness slip, we have to click on this plus button. Last year when I did this presentation, there was a different version of this website. They were going from an old version that they'd used for many years. It was in this, it was in beta testing, but it was a different image. So the new system, you have to click on that plus to create a witness slip. So we're going to click on the plus, and this is the witness slip launching page, essentially. You can see that you're in the right place because it says create a witness slip for Senate Bill 3766. So that's what we're trying to create a witness slip for. So what you do is then walk through each section of this. So the first section is identification. So you're going to put your name, your address, city, state, zip. A lot of people get confused about what do I put in for firm business agency. Let's say you're someone who lives in a nursing home and you just want to let your legislator know your opinion on this legislation, or you're a family member, or really anyone. If you're not representing your agency or the place you work, you need to enter self. And it's really important that you don't assume it's okay to use your employer's name. And even for ombudsmen, If I personally, as Jessica Belsly, want to take a position that is different from the state ombudsman, because of the way the federal law is written, I can't do that as an ombudsman. I have to be in agreement with the state ombudsman who is, because I'm a representative of that individual. However, I can do whatever I want as Jessica Belsley's self. So if you don't have permission from your agency or the organization you're connected to slip with their name, you just simply enter self. And the same goes for title. If I'm taking a position different than my who I report to, so different than the state ombudsman, I'm going to enter self here and not ombudsman. Even though I am an ombudsman, my position needs to be approved by that entity before I go ahead and enter it as that. So let's say you're someone who is living in a nursing home. You could put the title nursing home resident or family member of a nursing home resident. You can enter it's a free text field. So in theory, you could enter anything you want there, but you do later agree that the information you've provided is true and accurate. So you don't want to just make something up and be crazy. So then we're gonna enter our email, phone number. You don't have to have a fax. It used to be the email was optional, and in this new system, email is required. The next section is the representation. It's just this section here in the middle. And again, if you're filing a witness slip on behalf of a group, an organization, or an entity, and you have permission to enter or to slip on that entity's behalf, then by all means, you can put that in there. When I file witness slips, oftentimes my representation is the Illinois Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program because I'm doing it with my supervisor's permission. But again, if you're filing as an individual, it's absolutely okay to enter self in that field. And if we have time at the end, I'll take you to a couple to show you what that looks like. Okay, this slide's busy. But basically, it's just the next section of that witness slip. So the box looks like this. So it says add your positions on the legislative items. So you click this drop down, and then for this one, the only option I have live today is the Senate, it's SFA, Senate Floor Amendment 2. They're not talking about the original bill. They're not talking about Senate Amendment 1. They're only discussing Senate Floor Amendment 2, and the others have already passed out of committee. And so the only option I have if I want to take a position is to express my position on Senate Floor Amendment 1. So the first thing I do is I select Senate Floor Amendment 1 so we can see in step 2 here that it's showing. And then I need to add my position. You have the option of a proponent, which means you're in favor of the bill, you like this bill, you want to make sure the legislators know that you support this bill. An opponent is the opposite of that. You do not support the bill, and you want to make sure the legislators know that you are in opposition to the bill. And then the third option is no position on merits. And that just means you're neutral. You're not supporting the bill, you're not opposing the bill. But when you slip neutral, it lets you say, I care about this bill, but I'm making the decision to remain neutral. Oftentimes, we slip neutral when we've negotiated a bill that the nursing home industry has proposed. So oftentimes we come out and depending on the language, there were a few this year, and I'll touch on some of those later. They come out and we're opposed to it, and so we'll come in and put our opposition here, and then there will be an amendment. And so on the amendment, we might be neutral. It's very unusual for something that we've opposed to turn into something that we're now supporting, that we're now a proponent for. But you could do that if you really like what the amendment has to say, or you could go the other way. Maybe you supported something, but it got amended and turned into something you absolutely don't support. It's really important that you come back in and update on that amendment to let your position be seen because when there's a committee hearing before the sponsor of the bill speaks and presents the bill, or sometime during that process, the committee chair will read the names of those who of the witness slips. Now, if there's like 500 or even if there's 50, what they often do is try to give you a flavor of who the different groups that are weighing in on the legislation that's being discussed. So this one I'm not taking a position. So I click no position on merits. So now it looks like what we see up here for number 3, and I simply click add position. And when you do that, it pulls your position over into this right-hand side. If I did that on accident and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I want to be a proponent," and I said no position on merits, you can just click this X and it'll clear this box out. But let's say it's your bill and you like the original bill and you like House Amendment 1 and you like House Amendment 2, you could keep, if they were options, you could select multiple things in here. But for this example that was live when I was doing the screenshots, the only option was um, the Senate floor amendment 2. So then as you scroll further down on that screen, we finally made it to the bottom. Um, but what you need to do, so you said if you support it, you're opposed, or if you're neutral, but then the next section is talking about, do you want to give testimony? Are you there in person in the committee room and you're asking for the opportunity to speak on the bill? Um, have you submitted, do you have a prepared written statement that you want to file? Or is it a record of appearance only? Most of the time, you would click record of appearance only. This shows that you want it to go on the record that what your position is, but you're not actually asking to testify or submit written testimony to the committee. You'll have to agree to the terms of service, basically saying you're who you say you are, you're not lying, those types of things. Um, and then you have this Cloudflare. This box is basically there to make sure that you're a human and you're not a bot that is programmed to just churn out witness slips. I have a son who is a cybersecurity major, currently a junior in college, and knows a lot about programming. And I could see and just in conversations with him, how people are able to do some malicious things through computer programming. So there's there's things like this. Sometimes it might be a reCAPTCHA where it shows you, 9 or 12 pictures and says, click on the pictures of a bus. And it's using that to make you show some interaction so it sees that you're not a bot trying to um, put fake data in the system. And then the last thing you do is submit a witness slip. So you got to click that button. I mentioned
Jess,
that oh, go ahead, Stephen.
sorry, if I could cut in real quick. Usually those CAPTCHAs will have an option for an audio,
Yeah.
um, an audio version if you're not able to see clearly, because the whole point of those is to make it not clear, so a computer like an AI could not identify the words on the screen easily. So there are different options, and if you really can't see it, you can always or usually um, um, refresh it, and it will put up something completely different. So I just wanted to throw that out if people have trouble with it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. The other thing that I'm not sure is if this is even a reCAPTCHA or if Cloudflare is using some other sort of system to ensure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because I'm logged in and I use it all the time, like I never have to do anything, so it always shows that I'm successful. So that's why I'm like, you may have to validate that you're not a bot, but you might not. So I I don't know. Your mileage may vary on that one, but thanks for that. Because you had to enter an email, you will get a verification if your witness slip was received. So it's really important that you're checking to make sure you get that email so you know that it went on the record. And I'd encourage you to review it to make sure this is one I actually submitted. The other I was just doing for the sake of capturing screenshots. So this is I did put my position on House Bill 4868 on April 8th. Um, this is my information that I entered, and I was neutral on House Floor Amendment 1. If you go back and look at the witness slips for House Bill 4868, you'll see that I was opposed. I was listed as an opponent for House Bill 4868 initially, and then we negotiated with the nursing home industry, and we're now neutral on that bill. The other thing you'll see here is that it's record of appearance only. So I wasn't there in person to testify for this one. I wasn't submitting a written statement, but I did go ahead and slip. So they knew, especially because I was opposed before, it was important to be on the record since we are now neutral that we were reflecting that. That's a lot of information. So I'm just going to pause to see if there are any questions on that.
There are no questions in the chat, and I
Okay.
don't see any hands up.
Okay. The other thing I want to say is if this is may all be new to you, or maybe you're not aware of any legislation that you're really interested in slipping on. But let's say in the future that happens, feel free to reach out to our office, and one of us will be happy to walk you through it. Some of us are more familiar with doing this than others on our team, but we'll absolutely get you to the right person who can help you walk through this process. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about the bills that the Ombudsman program, we don't sponsor bills, but these are our initiatives for 2026. Um, I don't know why that slide shouldn't be there. Sorry, we're going to pretend we didn't just see that slide, and we're going to start here. So the first bill that we're going to talk about is we have companion bills. So while it's um, while it's one doing one thing, it's actually two different bills. So we have it both in the House and in the Senate. So House Bill 4517 and its companion bill 3071, it has the same exact language. This These bills are related to electronic monitoring. So this amends the Authorized Electronic Monitoring in Long-Term Care Facilities Act. We are amending laws that are a mouthful to say. I'll just put that out there this year. But what it does is it expands the coverage to assisted living and shared housing establishments for electronic monitoring. You might be wondering, are you talking about ankle bracelets? Like, what is electronic monitoring? So I want to just make sure we're really clear that everybody understands what that is. I pulled the definition straight out of the act here. An electronic monitoring device means a surveillance instrument with a fixed position video camera or an audio recording device, or something that does both, that is installed in a resident's room under the provisions of this act and broadcasts or records activity or sound occurring in the room. So this is not, you used to hear about the nanny cams where you could get like a teddy bear with a camera hidden in the button of the teddy bear and sit it on the shelf. This isn't that. Electronic monitoring in a nursing home or assisted living, if this bill passed, there are some other settings where it is allowed, means that the resident completes a form, lets the home know that they want to install a device. The home is responsible to make sure that there's a sign outside of that individual's room. So before somebody would go in, they would know that they could end up being on camera. But it's really important to know that this same law has been in place since 2015 for nursing homes. And so there are a lot of protections in place. This is not the nursing home or assisted living putting a camera in someone's room. This is a situation where the individual in that room, that resident, makes the choice to put a camera in their room. So if you're a resident and you live in a nursing home, there's already a law called the Authorized Electronic Monitoring in Long-Term Care Facilities Act that allows you to put a camera in your room if that's something that you would like to do. There's also provisions for if a resident's unable to give consent for it. So maybe a resident has advanced dementia and is unable to communicate, um, they're a representative of that individual can request to have a camera installed. The cost is on the individual asking for the camera, so the resident or if it's a resident representative. But the home has to allow it. If a resident can't give consent, maybe they have some capacity issues, and so an agent under a power of attorney is acting on their behalf and wants to install a camera, the home still has to ask the resident if they're okay with the camera. So unless you have a guardian, you have a right to deny the camera. The law also allows you to shut the camera off at any time. Um, and if you have a roommate, the roommate has to agree to it, and the roommate can ask for it to be shut off. So I just want to make sure you understand that there's a lot of protections in place. And Stephen, do you remember, did we have somebody do I think we had somebody present for Resident Family Council on electronic monitoring. I think
Yeah,
Lawrence did. Does that sound right to you?
that does sound right. I'll see if I can find it and I'll put the link in the chat.
Okay, thanks for that. I'm not sure if it was before we started getting these up on YouTube or not. Um, but if he can find it, he'll make sure to share that so you can get more information. So again, this is already in nursing homes. It's also in some homes for individuals with developmental disabilities. This law or this bill or these bills are trying to get it added to assisted living. We've had several residents reach out to the Ombudsman program saying, hey, I wanted to install a camera and my assisted living establishment says they don't let us do that here. Um, but we also have some assisted living establishments that do allow it. So they're not prohibited from it, but they're not required to comply with this act currently. And so that's what these bills are trying to do. The next bill we look at it is a technical cleanup bill. House Bill 4700 4700 and Senate Bill 3179. Their title is Assisted Living Mandated Reporting. So currently, there are laws requiring certain individuals with reasonable cause to think someone in a long-term care facility is subjected to abuse and neglect to either make a report or cause a report to be made. There's also laws for people who don't live in a facility. So a disabled adult or an individual 60 and over are protected under the Adult Protective Services Act. And there's mandated reporting laws for those individuals. But in doing some policy work last year, we realized that individuals in assisted living and shared housing establishments and those in supportive living aren't covered under either of the mandated reporting laws. And so basically what we're doing with these bills is just trying to clean that language up. We'd like to believe that it wasn't intentional that they were missed from the other laws, but we want to make sure that they're covered. And so that's what these bills are doing. Again, it's a little bit technical, but it's trying to close this loophole. And we don't really think a mandated reporter would say, oh, they're assisted living. I'm not going to call to report, right? We would expect, we would hope that mandated reporters would call regardless of setting, but technically they don't have to if the individual is in assisted living or supportive living. On the screen there, it's a little bit small, but I just included some examples of professions that are mandated reporters just to give you an idea. So we have police officers, state employees, eye doctors, paramedics, counselors, pastors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is not an exhaustive list of everyone listed in the two acts, but I wanted to just give you a flavor of kind of the range of individuals who are mandated reporters. Our third initiative um, is having assisted living, intermediate care facilities for the developmentally disabled, and the medically complex for the developmentally disabled facilities notify us when they're voluntarily closing. So this is House Bill 5047 and Senate Bill 2939. And its title is Long-Term Care - Notice. But essentially, those homes, those three licensure types, they're required to give a 90-day notice to the Illinois Department of Public Health, the resident, the resident's representative, and where applicable, the resident's family. They're not required to give a notice to the ombudsman. Under the Nursing Home Care Act, which covers nursing homes in Illinois, homes are required to give a 60-day notice to those individuals listed on the screen as well as the ombudsman program. And so what we're doing in this is just adding and the long-term care ombudsman program into the language where it specifies who a notice has to go to. What we do when we get that notice is, depending on the size of the home, it might be all hands on deck because the ombudsman program attempts to reach or meet with every single resident living in that building that's going to close to make sure the residents are aware of their rights. Things like they should have a choice of where they're going to go, to make sure that the home is communicating with them and there's a plan to make sure they're getting transferred to that next place, and what happens to the belongings and how are the belongings getting transferred, what's happening with the medication, those types of things. And so there have been situations though where homes close and we don't know until after the fact because they didn't technically have to tell us. So that's what we're trying to do. Again, this is a little bit technical, but I see it as really important when we have those homes close. And ombudsmen have made a difference in whether someone just ended up going to we had situations where a resident may be 3 hours away from where their hometown is, where they lived previously. And if the home that they're in is closing and they're just moving to another home across town, that could be an opportunity to see if there is someone or there's a place back near the area they want to live in that they could possibly transfer to. So again, our role is to make sure that they know their rights and they're receiving choices in that process. Any questions about those? It's a little bit unusual that our legislative initiatives don't have a major impact on nursing homes, but this year they're really hitting on some issues we've identified in assisted living and again a couple other settings as well. Okay, now I'm going to talk about some legislation proposed by others that affects individuals in long-term care. And this is not an exhaustive list. I know there are more bills out there, but I just wanted to highlight a few and also um, just take some time to talk about the fact that the legislative process is very, very fluid. So I did a presentation for a group in February about, bills that we're watching and what our ombudsman position was at the time. And our position has changed because there's been amendments and things have changed. So it's important to keep that in mind as you hear, like, I can't believe the ombudsman is not, not opposed to this bill. Well, I encourage you to take a look at the amendments. But if there is a bill that you think the ombudsman program should be taking a stance on that I don't comment on here today, feel free to send me an email. We're happy to take a look at it and see if it's something we want to engage in. We have legislative staff at the Department on Aging, and one of their jobs is to scour through all the bills that get introduced and flag them for the different programs. So they try really hard to flag everything related to long-term care, but sometimes things get missed. So House Bill 4868 was introduced by the industry. So when I say the industry, I mean lobbyists for nursing homes, assisted living, some sort of long-term care licensure type. So this is called Nursing Home Incident Reporting is the title of this bill. And you can see the synopsis. It amends the Nursing Home Care Act. It requires each facility to notify the appropriate IDPH office within 24 hours or by the end of the next business day after each reportable incident or accident, and requires the facility to send a narrative summary to the department within 5 days after the incident or accident. We came out very strongly opposed to this language. one of the main issues was it didn't define what an incident or accident was. And so it could be that reading the language in the original bill, you could think abuse falls under that. Abuse is an incident or accident. Well, the problem with that is there's another law called the Abused and Neglected Long-Term Care Facility Residents Reporting Act that requires suspected abuse to be reported immediately. And so it was conflicting. So we were like, it is absolutely not okay. If a resident, um, let's say there's a rape that happens at 6 p.m. on Friday, the way this original language in this bill was written, it could be interpreted that you don't have to report that till Monday afternoon, or if Monday's Labor Day, till the end of the day Tuesday. And that was completely unacceptable to us. There were a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls and a lot of meetings. And there is new language in House Amendment 1 that the Ombudsman program is neutral on. One of the things that we insisted on is that we wanted to make sure that we said this doesn't preclude reporting under the Abused and Neglected Long-Term Care Facility Residents Reporting Act. We also were not okay with or by the end of the next business day. And so those items have been removed. And we'll see. I think this might have passed out of the House. I'm not sure. I didn't check the status of all of these, but this is alive, it's moving, but this is one that we were strongly opposed to, did a lot of negotiations, and now we're neutral on it. Senate Bill 3950 is similar in the fact that we were strongly opposed to the original bill and we are neutral on the amendatory language. It has a longer synopsis, so I'm not going to read all of it to you. But some of the things that I'm just trying to skim it. It did the same like 24 hours of or by the end of the next business day language that they're proposing in that previous bill under the Nursing Home Care Act. This is the Assisted Living and Shared Housing Act. I have some notes here. Yeah, I can't. I don't have it in my head well at the moment, but there is a mandatory language that is not, I don't think it's been introduced yet. So currently we're sitting opposed to this. It did not get out of it didn't get out of committee by the deadline, but I checked before I call and saw that it was sent back to committee, so it's still alive. I've learned when we're talking about legislation that you might think a bill is dead and then suddenly like it's back or it's back and it's something completely different than it was before. And I actually have an example of that on the next slide. So House Bill 3392 was for assisted living disaster plans. So again, this one's affecting the Assisted Living and Shared Housing Establishment Act. So it says they have to have a written plan for protection of all people in the event of disasters. That seems good. But it goes on to say that it talks about fire drills or evacuation drills, and that what the industry was saying is they didn't want to have to do disaster drills at nighttime, and they didn't want to make residents have to evacuate. And I get it. I get their argument, right? Nobody wants to be inconvenienced by a drill. And if you have individuals who are dealing with cognitive issues, dementia, other cognitive issues, this can really throw a person off. At the same time, you don't know if you can successfully evacuate a building unless you try to evacuate a building. Assisted living buildings are built differently. Their code is not the same as a nursing home. So a nursing home, the building code requires it to be built that you can shelter in place. What we've been told is that assisted living building code regulations are much more similar to actually what you would have in building your own house. So I think it's 13 minutes to get everyone out of the building. So if you have a 12 bed assisted living and one staff on shift overnight, depending on the needs of those residents, if four or five, six of those residents need assistance in getting out of the building, 13 minutes is going to go quick. And it really is concerning that this could end up in a significant loss of life. So we were opposed to this bill. But what they've done with this bill is they've completely gutted everything related to disaster plans. It's all wiped out. It's completely gone. And Amendment 1 replaced it with language that allows a nurse practitioner or physician assistant to complete an assessment for a resident in assisted living. Previously, it said a physician had to do that. And then House Amendment 2 does further cleanup. So here's one that we were strongly opposed to the original bill. And then because of the amendments that have come, the Ombudsman program is now neutral on these. This bill, House Bill 3811, is private professional guardians. And for those of you that were on at the Resident Family Support Council a couple meetings ago when Lori Hendren with AARP attended, she talked a bit about this bill. And essentially what it's trying to do is put protections in place for individuals related to having private professional guardians assigned to them. This is another one. We were opposed to the original language. We've been at the table and involved with negotiations with AARP, the Cook County Public Guardian's Office, the Office of State Guardian, several others. And we are neutral on House Amendments 1 and 2. And then this is the bill that I was actually searching to put a witness slip on when I started walking through how to file a witness slip. This, you can see the synopsis. It was allowing assisted living and supportive living to provide CNA training at that building. And our concern was that the acuity level, the needs are not as high in assisted living or supportive living. So once you become a CNA, you can go work at any level of care. And we were concerned that if you only worked at assisted living, that you wouldn't have the experience needed to then go take a job at a hospital or a nursing home. House Amendment 1, no, Senate Amendment 1, and then Senate Amendment 2 put in some requirements that essentially IDPH has to come up with a set of standards, essentially, I guess is how I'll describe it, where that program has to provide the hands-on experience or make sure that people are proficient in providing all of the care, not just the care that is needed by the individuals living in that assisted living. So again, here's another one. We were opposed to the original language. We're neutral on Senate Amendments 1 and 2. I'm going to say if you engage, but maybe I should say when you engage in the legislative process, I want to strongly encourage you to make sure you read the whole bill. We've had a couple situations this year where people have been focused on one section of a bill that they missed something that could be really detrimental later on in the bill. And Kelly Richards, our state ombudsman, and I are often, I often say to her, Kelly, why don't people read? It's so important to read. So when you engage in this process, I encourage you to read the whole bill to make sure you understand it. If you have questions as you're looking at something, feel free to reach out. We don't know everything, but we might be able to either give you some insight and answer those questions or maybe point you to someone who would have more information on that. There are a lot of other bills affecting long-term care, as I said. Committee deadlines are, there was one on Friday and there's one this Friday, unless they get the magic, well, we'll just let it stay alive like that Senate bill did. So a lot of the bills that we were initially tracking um, they're not going anywhere. They're not moving. And so that's one of the reasons I'm not giving you an exhaustive list of other bills, but I also know that I would probably miss some if I tried to do that. So the last thing I want to just touch on is your legislators want to hear from you. There are very few people outside of lobbyists and people who have to do the work for their job that take the time to reach out to their legislator and give feedback on a bill. So I want to make sure that you know that it's important for you to, if you're passionate, if you want to have your voice heard, I strongly encourage you to do that. So you may be thinking, I have no idea who my state legislator is. Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's see if I can pull this over. Stephen, can you confirm that you can see my Google screen?
I can.
Okay, thanks. So I'm just going to Google how do I find my legislators in Illinois? Oops, I'm going to say state legislators. So right here, we have Find My Elected Officials. We have uaportal.org. I'm not familiar with that. I'm actually trying to get to this one. No, let's start with this one. We'll go with Find My Elected Officials. So this is the Illinois State Board of Elections. So we've got a map. So you can click the photo to search for your district official. So I live in Tazewell County currently, so I'm going to click on Tazewell County. Okay. They're like, we're trying to be accurate. If you have questions, contact your local election authority. So because I clicked on a county, it should load. It's a little slow. Um, it's just going to take me here. So I'm going to type 305 North Illinois Avenue in Morton, Illinois. I think that might be the address of Morton High School. I'm not sure why it's loading here, but hey, that'll work. So we're going to search for the legislators that cover this location. So it's going to zoom me in so I can see. Oh yeah, that's the high school. So over here on the right, it's a little bit slow. It's going to tell us all the way down who our legislators are. So it tells us the president, vice president, our US senators, the US congressperson for Morton, our governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, state comptroller, state treasurer, and then we have our state senator and state representative. So these are the two individuals that cover this address in Morton, Illinois. What I thought I was going to get as a hit was ilga.gov/members/find my legislator. That's what I thought I would get a Google hit for. This works the same way, but it was much faster when I did it earlier. So now that I have my camera on and I'm sharing my screen, it might be a little bit delayed, but let's do 406 North Lake Shore Drive, Hannah City, Illinois. Okay, so this one, it starts with your state representative and your state senator, and then it will give you everybody else. So we look here. Neil Anderson is the senator, and Travis Weaver is the state representative. And then it goes on and shows all the other officials, which is great, but they're not who we're contacting when we're trying to give feedback on state legislation. So if I lived at, what address did I put in? 406 North Lakeshore Drive in Hannah City, and there was a House bill that I was passionate about or a Senate bill that I was passionate about, I could search here and then I can click on, um, I'm going to click on Travis Weaver. And here's his Springfield office if I want to call them, the district office if I want to send an email. Um, and then it gives information about the senator. Nope, the representative. Sorry. So that's how you can find your individual representatives. The other thing, or senators, the other thing is oftentimes when a bill's in committee, we're trying to we're not going to like the one that represents where I live, but or the state ombudsman in office is contacting, the committee members to say, hey, we're concerned about this, or we're strongly in favor of this. Ombudsmen are expected to provide feedback on laws, policies, and regulations under federal law. And it specifically says that we educate and we don't lobby. So there is that caveat for ombudsmen specifically. Stephen, are there any questions or comments?
We had a comment about emergencies, just saying that there should be no learning curve during an actual emergency, and drills should be announced. Um, and he
Oh, and they
says it,
are announced. Yes.
yeah, yeah. We're a little bit past that, so I don't know the whole context of that comment. And then we had another comment requesting, um, pretty please, could you provide an ilga.gov witness slip steps? And I just commented that that's going to be posted on our YouTube channel later on.
Yeah, great. Um, the big the big thing I will say, the hardest part, so ilga.gov. Oh, you know what? I'm going to show you some of our witness slips. So let's look at House Bill 4868. So this is the incident reporting. And again, here's the bill status, and I showed you some of these screenshots. But to see what the witness slips are, these are each, so to get to the full text, it's here. This is where you find an amendment, if there's been an amendment posted. Um, the votes, this shows you um, how the vote went. Did it pass out of committee? Let me check real quick. Or off the floor. It did pass. So you can see that it passed with no opposition at all. Here are the witness slips. So these are the proponents. So it was in committee twice, potentially. So here's an example of someone who submitted a witness slip as self. Jason Speaks is the lobbyist for Leading Age Illinois, who was the sponsor of the bill. Kelly Van Ree works with him. And then Kim Storger is HCCI is another lobbying group for the nursing homes. But you can see here, there were two opponents, which were us and AARP. So I thought I came back and slipped neutral on this, but oh, you know what? I did, but not on the original bill. So you have to click here to the House amendment to see the witness slips for the actual House amendment. Again, here's someone who slipped as self. Matt Hartman is a lobbyist for the nursing home industry. And then no position over here. IDPH didn't take a position. The Ombudsman program didn't take a position in ARP. But what this says to the legislators in that committee is that we're now neutral based on this amendment. We were opposed before, Now we're neutral. I can't show you how to file a witness slip though, because this one's not in committee. But I'll just go through it. I think I can do it quickly. So this one, the committee might have happened. So this was the one I gave the example of. I can't click here. So if it's going to be in a committee hearing, you will see it listed under hearings. On the example I just showed, there was nothing for hearings. It wasn't even on the screen because the bill has already passed out of committee. So I got to get to the committee. So I scroll down. Here's Human Services Committee. So I can click that just because I wasn't able to show you the other four members. Here, the Republican members that sit. Oh, and I said Hammond's on this one.
She used to be on it if she's not still.
No, you know what? There's a Human Services Committee and there's a Health and Human Services Committee. She's
Oh,
on the
okay.
Human Services Committee because we got to make things as confusing as possible. But anyway, so clicked on the bill, clicked on the committee. In the committee, I click on hearings and then details. I've never seen that, but that's kind of interesting. Um, and then you know what? They added a bill. It was just two bills, and they added a third bill into it, which is why I think it's saying change. Over here is that plus sign to click to submit a witness slip. So if I click that, then it goes through entering your information, your position, all of that, and then you click submit. So you got to get from the bill to the committee, from the committee, this is the committee, to hearings, details, scroll down, and then your witness slip form is over here. This shows you, this other lets you view the witness slips that have been entered. So currently it's just Karen with the Affordable Assisted Living Coalition. She is a lobbyist for assisted living homes or establishments, sorry. And nobody, like we didn't take a position on it as the ombudsman. So there's no other positions out there. For those of you that are like, I have no desire to ever submit a witness slip, that's totally fine. But I'd still encourage you, if there's a bill that affects you that you care about, whether it's related to long-term care or something totally different, um, if you feel passionately about it, take the time to reach out to your local legislator, give them a call, send them an email. Um, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be an expert. You can call and say, this is Jessica Belsly. I'm calling about House Bill 4700. I think it's a great idea and it's really important. And I just want to let the representative know. Because oftentimes you won't get to the representative. But if they ask you for your name and contact information, I encourage you to give it to them so that they know that you are really one of their constituents. They're more likely to be invested in your feedback if you are potentially someone who's voting for them.
Hmm.
Wow, I'm really delayed with my camera again. I just glanced over to see to see my face is completely out of sync. I'll shut my video off again. That's crazy. I'm sorry about that.
Well, that
Any
that is good.
other? Go ahead, Stephen.
That is good timing because we are at the hour.
Yes.
Um, so does anyone have any questions before I turn off the recording? Okay, so I'm gonna stop the recording, and then we'll see if anybody has any questions that they want to ask that they don't want to be online for forever.